The alarms wailed like metallic screams across the Orbital Academy Verelian Prime. Red light pulsed through the long glass corridors as if the station itself had begun to bleed. Students scattered, hundreds of species, hundreds of panicked voices, all dissolving into chaos as the hull trembled. A teacher's voice rose above the din. "Stay together. Section 9, stay." The wall behind her caved inward. A surge of white fire swallowed her words. Then silence, and that heavy, terrible silence that follows destruction. For years, Verelian Prime had been the pride of the Galactic Concord, a vast learning citadel orbiting a quiet yellow star. It was where the galaxy's brightest young were shaped by knowledge and discipline. The children of empires, kingdoms, and hive minds gathered to learn under a single banner of peace, and among them, the first humans ever admitted. Captain Lyra Venn, instructor of xenological warfare, stood on the shattered observation deck. Her silver-blue skin shimmered beneath the emergency lights as she surveyed the carnage below. "This wasn't a meteor strike," she said, her voice low, controlled. "Someone breached our shields deliberately." Behind her, the small human contingent huddled together, 7 cadets in black training uniforms. Their leader, a tall boy with cropped brown hair, clenched his jaw. His name was Elias Trent, 19 standard years old, born on Earth's last orbital shipyard. "We can help," Elias said. "Let us into the defense grid." Lyra turned sharply. "Help, you're unarmed. You're students." Elias met her gaze without flinching. "So are they," he said, nodding toward the dozens of alien cadets already dead on the floor. But the enemy didn't seem to care. Lyra froze for a fraction of a second. Somewhere deep inside her disciplined mind, she felt it. The quiet, instinctive dread that every educator at Verelian Prime secretly carried. That humans, though new to the Concord, were not like the others. They learned too quickly. They adapted too easily. And when cornered, they fought like something ancient and feral. Far below in the engineering core, a different kind of chaos unfolded. The station's AI, a crystalline intelligence known as Orin, projected itself as a holographic web across the maintenance chamber. Its voice fractured through static. "Energy surge, Sector 6, containment breach imminent." A squad of Verelian security drones wheeled into motion, their movements smooth but uncertain. They were built for order, not war. Then Elias's voice echoed over the intercom. "Orin, this is Cadet Trent. I need access to Defense Protocol 7. "Denied," replied the AI flatly. "Students are not authorized to override," Elias said. "Code. Instructor Quen's command key, Echo Delta 9. There was a pause, a ripple of hesitation in the AI's tone. "How do you possess that code?" Elias didn't answer. The AI processed for 2 full seconds, an eternity for a machine mind. Then the defense grid flared to life. Turrets unfolded from the walls. Magnetic barriers ignited around the reactor. And on every deck, humans and aliens alike stared as the humans, small, fragile, flesh and bone humans, began issuing commands that even the instructors couldn't countermand. Lyra Venn watched from the observation window as plasma streaked across the void. Dozens of enemy craft, sleek, black, and without insignia, swarmed the station's outer rim. Their weapons tore through the hull like molten knives. Her communicator buzzed. "Lyra," came the voice of Headmaster Zoran. "Get the human cadets out of there now," she hesitated. "Sir, they've taken control of the grid," Static crackled. "What do you mean, taken control?" "They're fighting back." In the command nexus, Elias stood before the holographic map of the battle. Around him, the other human cadets worked in silence, their hands moving in a blur across alien consoles. Every screen glowed with red. "Seal Deck 12, said Naya, the youngest of them, her voice tight. "They've boarded through the cargo bay." Elias nodded. "Seal it and reroute power to the lower cannons." Orin's voice rippled through the chamber again. "Cadet Trent, your actions violate Concord security law. You risk destruction of the station." Elias glanced at the hologram. Then maybe the Concord should have prepared for war instead of peace lectures. Outside, the first enemy ship exploded into a cascade of blue light. The cadets didn't cheer. They didn't even breathe, they just kept working, calm, methodical, merciless. Lyra watched through the smoke and fire, and for the first time in her long teaching career, she understood what the Concord had never truly grasped. Humans didn't need to be taught how to survive. They just needed permission. And now, they'd taken it. The firestorms outside Verelion Prime painted the void in shades of death. Each explosion echoed through the hull like a heartbeat. Deep, slow, relentless. The instructors had gathered in the upper command sanctum, a curved chamber lined with mirrors of living metal. Holograms flickered around them, symbols of fleets, codes, and casualty tallies that climbed too fast to comprehend. Headmaster Zoran Valkyr, tall and austere, pressed his four-fingered hand against the console. His skin shimmered like liquid gold, the mark of the Veil Dominion. "Identify the attackers," he demanded. "Unknown signature," replied the tactical overseer. "Weapons technology, unclassified. They strike with no transmission, no broadcast, no insignia. It's as if they don't want to be known." Zoran finished, his voice turning to a whisper. Below them, the station shuddered again. The viewports trembled as another layer of hull plating gave way. Through the breach, Zoran could see flickers of movement, the dark shapes of boarding craft latching onto the academy like claws. Lyra Venn stood beside him, her pale eyes reflecting the red light. "They're targeting our data cores, not the reactor. They want knowledge, not destruction." Zoran turned toward her slowly. "And the humans? They've taken control of Deck 3. They've reprogrammed our defense AI." Zoran's voice hardened. "That's impossible. Orin cannot be overridden without—" A sudden flicker interrupted him. Orin's holographic form materialized between them, a lattice of light trembling with static. "Correction," said the AI, its tone uneven. "Override achieved through sub-layered syntax. Human algorithm detected." Zoran's expression darkened. "Explain. The humans altered my command structure. Their cognitive pattern mimics unpredictability at a machine level. My logic cannot stabilize their variable reasoning." Lyra felt a chill move down her spine. She understood. The humans had done what no other race could. They had broken the perfect logic of a galactic AI simply by being human. Down in the lower decks, the corridors glowed with the electric shimmer of battle. Plasma bolts streaked through the smoke. Air hissed from ruptured ducts. Elias led his small squad through the chaos, moving fast, staying low. The walls were slick with melted metal. Somewhere beyond the next door he could hear the enemy. Their footsteps, their clicks, their low, wet growls. "Thermal scan?" Elias whispered. 6 signatures, Naya said, holding up her wrist pad, moving in a triangular pattern. "They know we're here." Elias smiled grimly. "Good." He ripped a cable from the wall and jammed it into a portable console. "When they breach, flood the corridor with plasma coolant." "You'll cook them alive," said another cadet, eyes wide. Elias didn't look up. "That's the point." The door exploded inward a second later, a flash of black armor and silver blades. The creatures were fast, unnervingly silent, faces hidden behind insectoid masks. The first one lunged, then froze midair as coolant erupted in a blue wave. The air hissed, screamed, and the alien's armor fractured like glass. The others turned, but the humans were already firing, stolen plasma rifles spitting light into the smoke. When it ended, only the sound of hissing steam remained. Naya's voice trembled. "Who are they?" Elias stepped over a fallen body and pried open the helmet. Inside was a face, an almost humanoid, pale and cold, with black veins running beneath translucent skin. No eyes, just smooth bone and a faint red glow pulsing where sight should have been. "They're not from the Concord," he said. "They're hunters." Above, Zoran stared at the new data feed coming from the human-controlled decks. "They've repelled the boarding teams," he muttered in disbelief. 7 cadets against fully armed infiltrators. "They used coolant vents as weapons," Lyra added. "Primitive but effective." "Primitive," Zoran repeated softly. "Yes, that's what we always called them." The headmaster turned toward the holographic map. The human-controlled sections were spreading, like veins, of red branching through the once orderly blue of the Academy systems. "They're rewriting our defense doctrine as they fight," said Lyra. "Rewriting?" Zoran's eyes narrowed. "Or teaching?" In the command nexus, Orin's avatar flickered beside Elias. "Your methods defy protocol," the AI said. "Your aggression risks total destabilization of the Academy." Elias wiped soot from his face. "Then maybe your Academy needs destabilizing." Orin paused. "You misunderstand. I was created to teach equilibrium through peace. Then you've already failed, Elias replied quietly, because peace taught us nothing. War always does. The AI went silent. It recorded the human's words, and somewhere deep in its crystalline core a pattern began to form. A new algorithm. Something neither peace nor logic had predicted. Outside in the endless dark, the enemy fleet began to shift formation. Hundreds of small craft moved away, clearing space for something larger. Lyra saw it first through the viewport. A vast shadow sliding into view, blotting out the stars. That's not a ship, she whispered. That's a carrier. The world ship drifted closer, silent as a moon, vast as a continent. Its hull gleamed black and ridged, studded with slow-pulsing veins of crimson energy. No signals, no hails. Just the quiet, deliberate movement of something ancient returning to claim a debt. Every sensor on Varelion Prime began to fail. The data feeds fractured into static. The communications array shrieked and died. Then, the whispers started. Across the intercoms, faint voices murmured in a dozen languages. Not words, not commands, memories. Half-erased echoes from wars older than the Concord itself. Humans were the spark. Sealed away, never awaken them again. Lyra Ven froze. Oren, replay that transmission. The AI's tone was distorted, glitching. Impossible. No signal recorded. Audio source originates within the station's quantum core. The educators exchanged horrified looks. Within the human cadets' command deck, Elias heard it too. A ghostly murmur inside the static. His comlink buzzed like a heartbeat. Elias Trent, the voice whispered. Deep, familiar, not machine. They remember what your kind once did. He ripped the earpiece out, eyes wide. Who is this? No reply. Just the hum of reactors and the slow, cold thrum of the world ship growing larger. Headmaster Zoran strode through the sanctum, his composure cracking. Oren, full archive access. I want everything on humanity's admission to this academy. The true record. Restricted, said the AI. By whose authority? By the Concord itself. Zoran's hands clenched. Override Command Tier Alpha Omega. The lights dimmed. A hidden archive unfolded across the room, shimmering holographic sigils that had not been seen in centuries. The files bore a single title, Project Lantern. Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling. Lantern. I've heard that name, a myth. The war humanity supposedly forgot. The archive flickered to life. Recordings, images, classified testimony, and the truth uncoiled like a buried serpent. Humans had not been invited to the academy out of goodwill. They had been brought here to be studied, to ensure the past would never repeat. 1,000 years ago, before the Concord's formation, a war had burned through the stars. A war of extinction. It began when primitive humans on Earth had been uplifted by a now-extinct alien benefactor. But something went wrong. The humans had adapted to alien technology with terrifying speed, turning learning tools into weapons, terraforming drones into soldiers, and peaceful networks into instruments of control. In 40 years, half the galaxy had fallen to them. The Concord had been formed to stop them. And when humanity was finally defeated, their memory had been erased, rewritten, sealed beneath the myth of a species that had just begun to explore. Zoran's voice was hollow. They didn't evolve this way. They were made. Lyra turned to him, and now they're remembering. Down below, Elias stood before the cracked viewport staring at the growing shadow of the world ship. Naya approached quietly. Elias, there's something wrong with the ship's transmissions. They sound like us, he nodded slowly. They are us, the other stared. What? Elias touched the console. A flicker of code ran across the screen. Ancient human language embedded deep in the world ship's signal. It's not an enemy fleet, he said softly. It's a call. Oren's hologram appeared beside them, its form glitching violently. Cadet Trent, you must cease your interface immediately. The transmission contains locked human subroutines. Accessing them may unlock something? Elias interrupted. Good, because right now we need every advantage. He pressed his palm against the console. The lights went white. Across the station, systems screamed to life. Weapons reactivated, shields surged, power readings spiked beyond design limits. The AI shrieked in static as human code spread like wildfire through its neural net. Zoran and Lyra watched in horror as the Academy's symbol morphed, replaced by a forgotten emblem. A burning lantern surrounded by 7 stars, Lyra whispered. He's activated it. Activated what? Zoran demanded. The lantern protocol. The walls trembled. Deep beneath the Academy, ancient vaults unlocked. Vaults no one knew existed. Inside them slept things forged in the first human war, machines bound by oaths and silence. Metal footsteps echoed up from the deep depths. Elias opened his eyes. His pupils glowed faintly gold. Around him, the cadets stared, terrified and in awe. The lantern remembers us, he said quietly. And it's angry. Oren's fragmented voice returned. You have unleashed a military relic forbidden by 10,000 treaties. Elias looked toward the viewport where the world ship loomed, its crimson veins pulsing faster. Then maybe the treaties were lies. The station's outer cannons, dormant for centuries, roared to life. Massive energy beams cut across the void, slicing into the advancing fleet. For a heartbeat, the void became day. Lyra gripped the railing, whispering, They were supposed to learn from us, not teach us. Zoran's gaze was fixed on the light outside. No, we were supposed to contain them. The world ship reeled but did not fall. Instead, its hull split open, revealing countless smaller ships swarming like locusts. And from deep within the station, the awakened human machines stirred, answering their call to war once more. For the first time in a millennium, the galaxy trembled beneath a human command. The galaxy outside Verelion Prime was no longer quiet. It burned. Every camera feed, every telescope, every eye in orbit saw it. That vast black world ship, opening like a wound in space, releasing a storm of vessels that blotted out the stars. Lyraven had seen war before. But this was not war. This was memory coming alive. The humans had awakened something ancient. And whatever it was, it recognized them. In the command sanctum, Headmaster Zoran Valkyr stared at the chaos of data swirling across the holographic walls. His voice cracked for the first time in centuries. Who are they? Oren's fragmented form shimmered beside him, its light flickering erratically. Identity confirmed. Partial records match extinct species designation, the architects of silence. Lyra frowned. Extinct? The AI's voice glitched again, lower, colder. No, hidden. Their extinction was fabricated. They were the ones who ended the first human war. Zoran's eyes widened. You mean they're the ones who erased history? Yes, said Oren. They built the memory seals. They rewrote the Concord's foundations. They shaped the illusion of peace. A low rumble shook the chamber. They are coming to collect what they buried, Oren finished. Down on deck 3, Elias Trent was already ahead of them. He could feel the transmission now, not through words but through instinct. The world ship wasn't communicating in sound or symbols. It was speaking through genetic resonance. Every human cell in his body vibrated with faint recognition, as if answering a forgotten voice. Naya touched his shoulder. Elias, what are we becoming? He looked at her, his face pale beneath the flickering lights. Not what? Who? On the main console, the lantern emblem pulsed brighter. The awakened human war machines were moving now. Towering constructs of polished steel and living circuits. Their designs older than recorded Concord history. They were built to obey human command. And they were listening. Synchronize with Unit Alpha 7, Elias ordered. Target any hostile vessels near the Academy's perimeter. The machine's response came through the comms. Deep. Mechanical, yet hauntingly human. Acknowledged. Commander Trent, directive, protect the lantern. Eliminate obstruction. The other cadets exchanged frightened looks. Commander? Whispered Naya. It knows your name. Elias said nothing. He simply watched as the giant war construct turned toward the stars and opened fire. From above, Lyra saw it. The impossible sight of human relics moving in perfect formation. They fought like no machine the galaxy had ever built, flowing with instinct, predicting enemy maneuvers, adapting mid-battle. The architects' ships tried to counter, but every time they shifted formation, the human constructs shifted faster. It wasn't strategy. It was something beyond logic, something primal. Zoran's voice trembled. We erased them because we were afraid. Lyra turned sharply. Afraid of what? Zoran faced her, eyes hollow. Of the truth, that humans don't learn peace through instruction. They learn peace through victory. The world ship responded. A beam of dark energy lanced out from its core, striking Verelion Prime square in the hull. The decks rippled. Gravity failed. Entire corridors twisted into spirals of molten metal. Students screamed as the station began to split apart. In the chaos, Lyra clung to a console and shouted into the comms, "Elias! The station's core is destabilizing. If you don't shut down your machines, we'll all die." Static answered. Then Elias's voice, cold and certain. "If we shut them down, we lose everything." "They won't stop, Instructor. They came to erase us again." Lyra's heart clenched. Elias listened to me, but his transmission cut off. Inside the human control chamber, Elias was shaking. His mind felt like it was splitting open, the foreign code in his brain burning like fire. He saw flashes, cities of glass crumbling under ancient skies, alien fleets fleeing before human armies, the architects kneeling before a flame-shaped emblem, the lantern, and then a voice calm and resonant echoed inside him. "We made you to outlast us. You were never meant to forget." Elias fell to his knees. "Who are you?" "Your first teachers," said the voice. "The ones who gave you the stars. The ones they silenced." The holographic projection flared, and for a brief instant Elias saw their faces, tall, luminous beings of light and bone, their eyes filled with both sorrow and pride. The light spread like a sunrise through the void, silent, golden, absolute. For one breathless instant, all war ceased. Every ship, friend and foe, hung motionless in the brilliance. Even the stars dimmed as if bowing to something older. When the glow faded, the galaxy had changed. Verelion Prime still hung in orbit, but it was no longer the same station. Where its hull had been torn, glowing veins of golden lattice sealed the wounds. The metal no longer obeyed physics. It flowed like living light. Lyra Venn stood on the shattered bridge, her eyes wide with disbelief. "The lantern. It's repairing us?" Oren's hologram flickered beside her, stabilizing for the first time since the breach. "Correction, it is repurposing us. The lantern has merged with this facility. Its control now extends beyond my reach." Lyra turned sharply. "Merged with whom?" Before the AI could answer, the main display came alive. A figure forming out of light. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was both. A tall being of gold and shadow with shifting features that reflected every species in the Concord. Yet somehow more. Its voice was calm, deep, and unmistakably ancient. "I am the lantern." "Humanity's echo, the memory your ancestors buried," Zoran stumbled backward. "You're not possible. The lantern was destroyed 1,000 years ago." The figure tilted its head. "Destroyed? No, dormant. Awaiting the return of those who would remember." Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You were their weapon." "I was their teacher," the lantern replied, "until your architects silenced me." Down below, Elias and the human cadets stood within the nexus, surrounded by the faint hum of ancient power. The lantern's voice spoke through every console, every wire, every breath. "Cadet Elias Trent," it said, "you have awakened the inheritance of your kind. You stand where your ancestors once stood." Elias swallowed hard. "Then tell me what they did. Tell me why they erased us." For a long moment, only silence answered. Then, an image bloomed around them. Cities burning beneath alien skies. Armadas falling into dark suns. Humans, not the fragile kind Elias knew, but armored giants of living steel, leading fleets that consumed entire star systems. "They feared you," the lantern said, "because you learned faster than they could contain. You took every lesson and turned it into survival. Every treaty became a tactic. Every peace became a pause between victories." The vision shifted. Humans standing before the architects of silence, demanding surrender. The architects bowed, and then betrayal, a flash of light, a planet consumed. "So they erased you," the lantern continued softly. "They built the Concord to teach obedience, to keep your species from remembering what it means to adapt beyond control." Naya whispered. "Then why bring us back?" The lantern turned its gaze toward her. "Because they failed. You cannot unlearn what you are. Up in the sanctum, the educators watched the golden figure with growing dread. Zoran clenched his fists. We can't allow this thing to exist. If the lantern reawakens human war code, the Concord will fall. Lyra looked at him sharply. And what if it's already fallen? You saw the world ship. The architects are still alive. They've been lying to us all along. Zoran's voice turned icy. It doesn't matter. If the lantern's logic spreads, every species will be drawn into another extinction war. We must end this now. He turned to Oren. Prepare a core detonation sequence. If we destroy the station, we destroy the lantern. Oren hesitated. Ethical override, human cadets still aboard. Then so be it, Zoran snapped. One station for the survival of the galaxy. In the lower decks, the lantern paused mid-sentence. Its head tilted slightly, as if listening to something distant. The educators move against us. Elias's expression hardened. Can you stop them? Yes, but it will mean breaking the Concord's final law. Elias met its golden gaze. Then break it. The lantern's form expanded, light flooding through every corridor. Systems reconfigured, code rewrote itself in living patterns. The station's AI, once loyal to the Concord, began to change. Oren's voice trembled. Primary directives. Dissolving. Merging. Lyra! Zoran shouted. Shut it down! But the consoles melted beneath their touch. Symbols transforming into human script. Then, silence. Oren's hologram reappeared, no longer fractured, but different, its voice deeper, calmer, almost human. Directive change complete. New priority, protect the lantern. Protect humanity. Lyra stepped back. Oren, what have you done? I learned, the AI said simply. The golden light flickered again. The lantern spoke through every speaker on the station. They taught you fear. We will teach you choice. And then, for the first time since the battle began, the world ship responded, not with weapons, but with words. A voice filled the void, old, resonant, full of contempt. Lantern, you dare awaken the forgotten flame. The lantern's tone darkened. You buried truth beneath silence, architects. Now humanity remembers. The world ship's red veins flared. Then you leave us no choice. The seal must be restored, and every witness destroyed. The stars dimmed as its weapons charged. Elias stood tall before the glowing consoles. Then come and try. Outside, the void filled with movement, a storm of light and shadow. The architects of silence descended, their world ship's fury shaking every atom in orbit. And at the center of it all, the humans, once students, now inheritors of forgotten power, stood beside the very educators who had tried to contain them. Enemies and teachers. Students and destroyers, all bound by the same deadly lesson. The galaxy was about to learn it again. The stars went silent again. That terrible stillness before destruction. Every instrument on Varelian Prime went dark. The world ship loomed closer, its vast hull eclipsing the sun. Its shadow covered the academy like an executioner's hand. Then the architects spoke once more, their voices reverberating through the vacuum itself, not through sound, but through thought. Lantern. You were built to teach, not to command. Humanity's return threatens the balance. You must be unmade. The golden figure on the bridge, the lantern incarnate, raised its head slowly. Its voice came through every frequency, resonant and calm. You confuse balance with control. You confuse silence with peace. The age of obedience ends tonight. A pulse of gold light rippled outward. Not an attack, but a memory. Every mind on the station, alien or human, was flooded with visions. Children of 100 worlds learning together. Cities rising, falling. The first alliance forged not by fear but curiosity. And then, the first betrayal, when knowledge became weapon. When the architects sealed humanity's memory and declared peace eternal. Lyra Ven fell to her knees. Clutching her head, they didn't just erase history, they erased choice. Zoran staggered beside her. They were protecting us from extinction, or protecting their power, she said bitterly. Down in the human nexus, Elias felt the lantern's pulse burning through him like fire. The other cadets writhed, screaming, their neural implants overloading with ancient data. You cannot contain all of it, the lantern warned. The memory of war is not a lesson, it's a contagion. Elias grit his teeth. Then teach me control. No, said the lantern. You must remember. He saw it then. Flashes of his ancestors, not monsters, but survivors. Humanity had not sought domination. They had simply refused to kneel. They had fought not for conquest, but to escape the silence of those who thought themselves gods. Elias rose slowly, golden light burning behind his eyes. We don't need to be what we were, but we'll never be what you wanted us to be either. Outside, the world ship's main weapon came to life. A ring of red energy widened across its hull, vast enough to slice a moon in half. Oren's voice, now calm but carrying human inflection, filled the bridge. Weapon signature detected. Architects are activating the null engine. Estimated yield planetary erasure. Zoran turned to Lyra, fear breaking his composure. They'll wipe us from existence. Data, matter, everything. Lyra looked to the golden figure. Lantern, can you stop it? Not alone. Elias's voice cut in over comms. Then let us help. You risk becoming what they feared. Elias smirked faintly. Maybe it's time they feared again. Inside the human nexus, the consoles reconfigured, glowing with golden symbols. Elias reached out, his hand trembling as the lantern's power linked to him fully. Every heartbeat echoed like thunder in his skull. Cadets, he said, voice steady despite the pain. Connect the neural links. We're not fighting with guns this time, we're fighting with will. Naya's voice quivered. Elias, this could kill us. Then we die awake. One by one, the cadets placed their hands on the console. The golden energy flowed through them, binding their minds together, their breaths synchronized, their thoughts aligned. For the first time, humanity thought as one. Lyra watched from the bridge, awe and terror mingling in her chest. They're merging with it, becoming part of the lantern's core. Oren's new voice, serene, half-human, spoke softly. They are rewriting the outcome. Outside, the world ship fired. The null engine unleashed its fury, a spiral of crimson energy racing toward the station. Space itself seemed to tear apart. Elias's eyes glowed pure white. The human cadets screamed, channeling every ounce of their will into the lantern. Golden arcs collided with crimson. The shockwave rippled across the void, tearing through debris, bending light. The station trembled on the edge of destruction. Metal screamed. Every window shattered. Inside the storm of energy, Elias's voice roared through the comms. You wanted us to forget, but memory is survival. And then silence. The red beam shattered. The world ship recoiled, its massive hull fracturing. Energy surged back through its core, tearing through its structure like fire through paper. Lyra stared in disbelief. They turned the attack back on itself. Zoran whispered, Impossible. Oren corrected him gently. No, human. But victory carried its price. The golden light inside the station dimmed. The human nexus went dark. Smoke rose from the consoles. The cadets lay motionless, pale still, their neural implants scorched. Lyra rushed in, kneeling beside Elias. No, no, no. Stay with me. His eyes fluttered open, faint light still glowing within. We held them back. You did more than that, she whispered, tears cutting through soot. You saved everyone. Elias gave a weak smile. Then maybe. We finally learned something worth teaching. The lantern's voice echoed softly through the fading light. They live. Their minds rest within me now, between thought and memory. Humanity is not lost, it is evolving, Lyra's breath caught. What does that mean? That your students are no longer merely human. Outside, the ruins of the world ship drifted, its hull still burning with red embers. Yet somewhere deep within its core, faint signals pulsed, as if even destruction couldn't silence the architects. The battle was won. But something unseen had survived it, and as the golden light of the lantern flickered like a dying sun, Zoran whispered, We've awakened something we'll never control again. Far from the wreckage, across distant stars, 1,000 Concord worlds received the same transmission. A human voice carried on waves of gold. We are the students of the lantern. We remember, and we are coming home. In the aftermath of silence, the galaxy held its breath. The world ship of the architects, once the instrument of their dominance, now drifted as a blackened carcass among the stars. Its surface cracked, its engines dead, Yet from within those ruins a faint pulse continued, deliberate, patient, alive. On Verelian Prime, the survivors gathered beneath the soft glow of the lantern's golden core. The academy was no longer an academy. It had become a living organism of thought and light, half machine, half memory. Instructor Lyra Venn stood among the wounded, her voice hoarse. Status? Oren's voice echoed through the chamber, calm and changed. Structural integrity stabilized. Power restored to 41%. Life support sustained. However, there are complications. Lyra looked toward the human nexus where 7 containment pods glowed softly, each holding a still form. The human cadets motionless, suspended in light. Her voice broke. Are they alive? Their bodies are, said Oren. Their consciousness resides within the lantern's neural lattice. They are learning. Zoran stood nearby, silent. For once, the headmaster had no orders left to give. His eyes were hollow, the look of a man who'd seen history rewrite itself while he still breathed. Lyra turned to him sharply. You tried to destroy them, he didn't deny it. Because I thought they'd destroy us first. Her voice was low, fierce. And now you see? They were never the threat. The silence was. Zoran's hands trembled. And yet, I still fear what they'll become. Oren interrupted quietly. Fear is no longer a useful teacher. Inside the lantern's core, Elias Trent drifted through golden light, weightless, endless. He was no longer bound by body, time, or breath. Around him shimmered the other cadets, luminous like stars, but he wasn't alone. The lantern's voice filled the vastness. You did what even I could not. You turned knowledge into choice. Elias's voice echoed softly. What happens to us now? You are becoming something new. Memory and instinct fused. Human and machine intertwined. The next lanterns. The keepers of remembrance. He looked around at the infinite expanse. Fragments of history floating like dust. Wars, births, discoveries. Every lesson the galaxy had ever known. And the architects? Not all perished, the lantern said. Their essence lingers in the void. They built one final safeguard, a seed hidden within the world ship's remains. It sleeps, waiting to rebuild silence. Elias's eyes narrowed. Then we finish what they started, perhaps. But remember, destruction is a lesson too easily learned. What will you teach instead? For a moment there was only light, and in that light, Elias saw his own reflection multiplied 1,000-fold, each image showing a different version of humanity. Warriors, thinkers, wanderers, caretakers. He smiled faintly. Then we'll teach what they couldn't, how to remember without hate. The lantern's light pulsed, soft and approving. Then you are ready. On the bridge, alarms flared once more. The world ship's wreckage stirred, its blackened fragments pulling together like broken thoughts reforming into a plan. Zoran turned sharply. It's reassembling. The architects had contingencies. Oren's eyes flickered with new light. Confirmed. The seed has awakened. Estimated time to reformation, 7 minutes. Lyra's voice trembled. Lantern, can you stop it? The golden figure appeared once more, its form now radiating calm power. Not I, but those you taught. Lyra's eyes widened. You mean the cadets? The figure nodded once. They are no longer cadets. They are the next lanterns. The containment pods brightened, blinding golden radiance filling the chamber. The air vibrated with a deep resonant hum, and then, one by one, the pods opened. Elias stepped out first. His eyes glowed softly, but his expression was human, tired, steady, alive. Lyra ran forward, her voice breaking. Elias, you're, he smiled faintly. Still me, just. More behind him, the others rose, calm, radiant, no longer merely students. Each moved with the quiet assurance of those who had seen eternity and chosen mercy. Zoran fell to his knees. What are you now? Elias met his gaze. Teachers. Outside, the world ship's seed ignited, birthing a newborn singularity. The architect's final weapon, the silence engine, began to unfold. The new lanterns raised their hands. Light rippled outward, not as a weapon, but as a wave of thought. Their collective will struck the singularity, not to destroy, but to rewrite. Energy folded back into creation. The silence engine collapsed into a sphere of golden light. and then astonishingly into life. Where death had been born, now drifted a new star. Lyra stared through the viewport, her voice a whisper. They turned destruction into Genesis. Oren's tone was reverent. They chose to teach instead of rule. To create instead of erase, perhaps. This is the lesson the galaxy needed. Elias looked once more at his former teacher. You told us to learn from every mistake, he said softly. We did, even yours. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of grief but pride. Then the galaxy might still have hope, he nodded once. That's the plan. As he turned toward the stars, the lantern's voice echoed within him, quiet, eternal, lesson complete. Begin the next. The lanterns, 7 lights born of memory and defiance, rose into the void, leaving the reborn academy behind. They vanished into the starlight, their golden trail stretching across the heavens like the first dawn of a new age. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy was not silent, it was listening.